What is up guys, Andy Forrestine Runner here, and only 4 days ago we were discussing on a live stream how Nike would get around the compliance issues they had with the prototype used by Eliud Kipchoge for the Nike Air Zoom ALPHAFLY NEXT%. Well, of course now Nike, 4 days later, have released an official press release, official details on the exciting and upcoming Nike Air Zoom ALPHAFLY NEXT% that will be available in summer 2020, that will be compliant with World Athletics and that will be used by athletes at the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Today we're going to be diving into all the details around the shoe, the shoes that make up the collection of the series, and my thoughts on this exciting but very strange looking new shoe. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. Without further ado, let's dive in. In a year where there's so much hype surrounding other running shoe brands releasing their own carbon-plated races this year, Nike have basically come in here, stamped down their authority and said, we are top dogs in this game guys, and this is our new secret weapon. So we welcome to the market the Nike Air Zoom ALPHAFLY NEXT%, along with the Nike Air Zoom Tempo NEXT% and the Nike Air Zoom Tempo NEXT% flyease, a suite of shoes that are going to be released in summer 2020, but we will no doubt see in the Olympics, which is extremely exciting. I'm assuming Kipchoge and Bekele will both be racing in these shoes, along with a whole host of other athletes. And we have to take our hats off to Nike, despite the fact that their NEXT% range of shoes constantly divides opinion. They are continually pushing the boundaries when it comes to running shoe development and pushing human limits. So today, as I said, before we jump into my own personal thoughts on the shoe and what I think about the ALPHAFLY NEXT%, we'll go through some of the juicy details that have been provided to us by Nike in their press release. So I'm just going to read you a couple of bits which I think are some key takeaways in this whole suite of shoes. The Nike NEXT% footwear innovation system engineered to give athletes a measurable benefit. Informed by sports science and verified by Nike Sport Research Lab, the Nike Air Zoom ALPHAFLY NEXT% features 3 critical components working together to help runners on race day. I'm sure you can gather what those 3 components are. We have, of course, the full-length carbon plate. We have their trademark Zoom X foam, which is extremely nice. And then, of course, we have those brand new AirPods coming for the first time into these running shoes. And that's the thing that I want to kind of discuss at the end in particular on my thoughts. It's the only thing I'm a little bit skeptical about. But those 3 things are going to be making up the key components to this new shoe in the range of the NEXT%. Along with that, Nike's newest race day shoe, the Nike Air Zoom ALPHAFLY NEXT%, features 2 new Nike AirPods, more Zoom X foam, and a single carbon fibre plate, which is key here because, of course, the prototype that Kipchoge used in Austria, Vienna, was, of course, a 3-plated shoe. So Nike have been very clever. They clearly submitted multiple patterns as what was floating around on Instagram and as we discussed on the live stream. And the one with the single plate got through permission from the World Athletics. All updates from the predecessor, the Nike Zoom X Vaporfly NEXT%, so all of those things are updated. And an ultra breathable, lightweight Flyknit upper, which is really interesting. They've clearly ditched the vaporweave material that they bought in, that so many people, when they got the NEXT% last year, said it got all crinkly and was a little bit of a strange material. Some people didn't get on with it, but everyone obviously seems to enjoy Flyknit much more, all adding up to an improved cushioning and running economy. The shoe is part of a suite of products releasing in summer 2020, including the Nike Air Zoom Tempo NEXT% and the Nike Air Zoom Tempo NEXT% flyease, complementary training shoes that translate the principles of the ALPHAFLY into rigorous daily use, and track spikes, the Nike Air Zoom Victory, that extend the NEXT% design ethos into new disciplines. So from that aspect, if we look back in 2019, when the NEXT% was released, we had around the same time launching, we had the Pegasus 36, we had the Nike Zoom Fly 3, we had the Turbo 2, and then of course we had the NEXT% all being released in and around the same month. I think it was of June. Now, this Tempo Next Percent, I'll read this and then you can make judgment like I have. For the Tempo Next Percent, the Next Percent system is specifically tuned for training. The plate shifts from carbon to a composite plate, softer for added comfort over higher mileage, but still serves to provide the stability and transition throughout a runner's full stride. Zoom X, prized for its energy return and responsiveness, sits above the plate at the mid and forefoot, and for maximum impact protection and durability, Nike React foam is used at the heel. The same Nike Air Zoom AirPods are featured in the new Air Zoom ALPHAFLY Next Percent, are also placed in the Tempo's forefoot to offer responsive cushioning and sensation of propulsion. So what it seems to me like is what they've done is they've kind of taken a combination of the Zoom Fly 3 and the Turbo 2, because as we know the Turbo 2 has that Zoom X and React combination in the midsole, and kind of merged them together into hopefully some kind of super training shoe. We're going to be really keen to see what that one's all about, and that's certainly a shoe that myself in particular will try and get my hands on. So that is the juicy gossip and the details that Nike have released. Let's jump into what I think about these shoes. So what are my thoughts on the Nike Air Zoom ALPHAFLY Next Percent, Tempo Next Percent, and this whole range of shoes? And before we dive into that, very quickly, I am going to try and remember to say Nike, because I know it annoys so many of you. The amount of comments I get saying, it's Nike, it's not Nike. I apologise, I'm British, I say Nike, alright? I apologise, but I will try and remember to say Nike. So, what are my thoughts? I've got one question mark that's hanging over my head, and then a couple of thoughts leading on from that. The question that I have, really, the question mark hanging over my head, is the AirPods. But the two things that I want to think about a little bit more in detail, which we won't go into too much detail now, is of course other running shoe brands. They need to look up, they need to take note. Nike are clearly paving the way here, and if you're releasing your first carbon plated shoe in 2020, there's so much catching up to do. And then of course, in 2020 we're releasing a shoe that looks like a moon boot. Where on earth are we going to be with running shoes in 2025? It's a scary prospect, but I'm going to be really positive about the shoe overall. I don't have anything negative to say. I was very skeptical when Nike released the whole 4% Next Percent range of shoes. I jumped on the bandwagon of the negativity side of things, thinking that they were giving people an unfair advantage. And ultimately, after I did more research, I think the negativity comes from people who are ill-informed. And I, for one, will put my hands up and say I was ill-informed about that range of shoes. After seeing various videos about it being cut in half and the construction of the shoe, just seeing that all it is foam, carbon plate and foam. That's it. Bearing in mind carbon plate shoes have been around since the Fila Racer back in 2000 and before that in some Brooks and Puma shoes. We can't really grumble about carbon plates being in shoes. I think what I am questioning now though is the use of the AirPods. I think ultimately the World Athletics go out there and state you can't have springs in your shoes, and these AirPods virtually act as springs to propel you forward, but they're not springs. So Nike are being very clever with the way that they have designed and developed the shoe and have got around that aspect, but providing something that acts like a spring that isn't a spring. And to me, ultimately, that I'm not sure how I feel about that. I do start to feel at that level that it is maybe crossing a line. That's not to say I would never not get a pair, because I would love to grab a pair of these shoes if I could ever afford them. I would love to try them out and see how I get on with them. But morally, there is that question mark hanging over me. And I'd love to know what you guys think about that in particular in the comments below. Ultimately, if someone was to cut this shoe in half and dissect it, no doubt it is simply going to be Zoom X foam, carbon plate, Zoom X foam, but with the addition of these Zoom AirPods. So that is a bit of a moral quandary for me, but overall I am going to be really positive on the shoe, and I am going to be really positive about the way Nike are grabbing the bull by the horns and taking the running shoe market forward. I think we've got a lot to look forward to this summer with the release of the Nike Pegasus 37, and then of course the Tempo Next Percent and the ALPHAFLY Next Percent. If I don't get myself a copy, if I don't get myself a pair of the ALPHAFLY, I will certainly try my best to get myself some of the Tempo Next Percent, just to feel what those AirPods are like, what it's like running in them, and I will of course do multiple tests. But overall my thoughts are positive on the shoe. I'm excited to see what Kipchoge and Bekele can do at the Tokyo Olympics in this shoe. I just fear for other running shoe brands. You can just imagine, as always, a starting line full of elite athletes in these Nike racing shoes. It's either going to be the 4%, the Next Percent, or the ALPHAFLY Next Percent. We are going to see an epidemic of these shoes, and it's going to be very hard now for other running shoe manufacturers to catch up to the level where they're on a level playing field with Nike. So those are my thoughts on the Nike Air Zoom ALPHAFLY Next Percent. What a mouthful, trying to remember that every time. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. It's been a pleasure to talk about this today. Super exciting topic. And yeah, as I said, any comments that you have, make sure you leave them in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, guys, please do give it a like. If you have been really annoyed by the fact that I've said Nike and not Nike, feel free to give it a dislike. Share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. And I'll see you again for another running video. Until then.